Welcome to your bodyweight cardio and conditioning practice for today. This practice is designed to be customizable and adaptable to any phase of your cycle. So it's important that you just kind of listen to the intro and check out the video description to know how you can modify this practice for wherever you are in your cycle, whichever phase you are in. So we're using body weight only. We have 20 different movement patterns. It's a quick 20-minute practice with the optional warm up and cool down depending on what your goals are for this practice. We are using continuous intervals, so each exercise will be completed for a minute, and depending on which phase of the cycle you're in, your interval ratio will change. So if you're in the first half of your cycle, the follicular phase, you're going to work for 40 seconds at a pretty high intensity and then have a quick 20-second recovery interval. As you are approaching mid-cycle, when you feel the energy rising, we have that surge of estrogen, but before you hit ovulation itself, so just the days leading up to ovulation, we're going to switch that ratio to 30 seconds on and 30 seconds off. What that means is I want you to aim for your highest level of effort in that 30-second interval. We're shortening it a little bit so that you can power through for that full 30 seconds. This isn't going to be a maximum output every time because our recovery interval is short. So you might have diminishing effort or diminishing output as we move through, and that's okay. I just want you to feel like you're pushing that intensity threshold with every interval. And we will have some single leg balance and other movement patterns to kind of give us a little bit of a heart rate break throughout the practice before picking up the intensity again. So that's the first half of your cycle. If you are in the luteal phase or you're in premenstrual territory, maybe even on your flow days, I want you to take this to continuous 60-second intervals. So you'll just set a timer for 1 minute and move continuously throughout, transitioning between exercises in the last 5 seconds of each interval. What you're aiming for there is a lower level of intensity where you're not needing a recovery interval and you're able to work consistently throughout. So it's that sustainable endurance zone that you could keep going for a longer period of time because you're not maxing out the effort. I'll also go into all the heart rate zones in the description of this video so that if you are working with a heart rate monitor, you can track those zones and try to stay in that sweet spot for each phase, or you can use the cues from your body. So to hit that 50% zone, you're just approaching the point where your breathing may have to change. It may become a little bit more labored. That's where we want to be in your premenstrual and menstrual phases. So your flow days and the last few days of your cycle. You want to make sure you're not having to breathe excessively through the mouth and that it's slow and fluid. As we enter the follicular phase, that's where you can start to require that breath through the mouth. You're hitting that intensity threshold where it starts to become very challenging. Maybe you can only get out a few words at the end of each interval, if any at all. And then in your ovulatory phase, you are breathless. You are working at your max capacity for each of those intervals. Then we bring it back down for the luteal phase to where you're just kind of hovering around that point where your breathing has to change. So you might be a little bit higher, a little bit lower at times, but we're trying to stay in that sweet spot. So that's a quick breakdown of how to modify this workout for your phases. And the ways that you can dial up or down the intensity are through your pace, through the movement pattern that is chosen. I'll demonstrate high and low intensity options as appropriate. And you can take more pause in between reps if you need to adjust that level of intensity. So this one is completely customizable. I'm working with you today in my follicular phase, so you'll see that level of effort, but feel free to adjust as you need to for your particular cycle phase. This one does have that 5-minute warm-up and a 5-minute cool down included in the video. However, if you are working at those lower intensities throughout the practice, you don't really need that warm-up and cool down because we're staying in that kind of that lower intensity zone for the duration. If you're working in the follicular and the ovulatory phases where you're trying to hit your max intensities, I strongly recommend adding the warm-up and cool down to your practice. You can skip ahead using the timestamps in the video description. It'll look like a link and it'll just jump you ahead or back as needed. So, with all of that, you won't need any equipment. You'll just need your body weight and a comfortable place to move around, a place where you can jump if that is desired for you today. And now let's get into this workout. Let's jump right into our total body warm up for today. Find a nice comfortable stance, give a little shake. We're going to start with a standing side bend. Take one hand to your hip, the arm reaches up and over. Really open that top shoulder. Feel the extension along the side body. Start to deepen your breath, creating that mind-body connection. Come through center, inhale. And as you exhale, up and over to the other side. Big breath once again, opening that top shoulder so you feel that expansion across the chest. Be here, just one more breath, and then we'll inhale, come up through center. Start to reach for opposite elbows. So find opposite elbows if you can. Feel that shoulder stretch. And then as you exhale, interlace your fingers behind you. Start to straighten the arms as much as is possible. Feel a nice deep stretch across the front of the heart. Make sure that your low ribs are not puffing out. Draw them in and up. Breathe here. Try to expand the chest even through this stretch. And then we'll start to step the feet out nice and wide. Toes turn out, heels turn in. Release those arms to T. We're going to alternate between this sumo squat, and then we're going to twist into a lunge. So feel that T twist in the upper body. Come back through center, arms are at a T, and then we twist to the other side. So we're just rotating the feet, rotating the stance, and feeling that nice deep twist in the spine, that rotation. You can pick up the pace a little bit here. And then the next time that you are over your right leg, we'll pause there for a nice deep lunge. So take your hands to your front knee and deepen. Press the top of your back foot down into the mat so that you feel some traction in the front of the back thigh. Lift the heart up and away. Press down onto your front knee here. Big breath. Last few seconds here in this stretch. And then we'll take the hands down, once again, parallel the feet. Here we're just alternating in a side lunge. Make this one nice and deep so that you feel that stretch in the inner thighs, the inner hips. So we're creating some dynamic stretching here paired with static stretching to get our muscles ready for this strength work. Next time your left knee is bent, we'll turn over that foot, come into the hip flexor stretch on this side. So we take the hands to the front knee, really start to stretch the hips forward, lift the heart up and back away from that front leg. Press the top of the back foot down. And again, feel that traction, that stretch from the top of the knee up through the side waist. Last big breath here. And then we'll take the hands down, come into a tabletop. Simple cat-cow spine here, really stretching as you inhale, and then as you exhale, rounding in. So we're working through extension of the spine and flexion of the spine. So our warm-up really just wants to mobilize all planes of motion and prepare the body for what is up ahead. You might even twist the spine side to side from here. Left arm reaches forward, right leg back. As you exhale, knee to elbow hug in. Reach it back out and we'll switch. So we extend, close the gap between hip points and low ribs, and re-extend. So try not to round the upper back, but instead just shorten the gap between your hip points and your low ribs. Let's do one more on the other side here. Hug it in and relax. Take your right hand behind your head. As you inhale, open that right shoulder and that right elbow up, and exhale, round it in. This is one of my favorite stretches for helping the pelvis and the rib cage to move more independently, more freely. Sometimes they get a bit frozen and stuck together, which can cause lower back pain. Last big breath. And we'll switch sides. So right hand down, left hand behind the head. Inhale, open it nice and wide. And then exhale around. So you should start to feel just that little bit of a warming effect. Maybe your heart rate slightly elevated, creating space in shoulders, hips, the major muscle groups in the body. Last few here. And slowly come out. Step your feet to your hands. Keep that nice, generous bend in the knees. Bring hands to your thighs. Stretch the spine here. And then slowly rise all the way to stand. Let's breathe together. Inhale, reach the arms up. And as you exhale, sigh it out. You can shake out the arms, shake out the legs. If you feel like you still need a little bit more of a stretch or warm up, you can continue here. Otherwise, you're ready to get into your workout. We are going to jump right into this cardio and conditioning workout for today. So, since this is a workout for all phases, I will be demonstrating both a low intensity and a high intensity variation in each exercise. So, I'll always start with the low intensity and then build up to the higher intensity so that you can take the option that is right and appropriate and supportive for you wherever you are in your cycle. We will get going in about 20 seconds here. I will start our timer. And we will set up for our jumping jacks. So the low impact option, you're simply stepping out side to side with the arm. So it's out and together, out and together. Of course, as always, with your higher impact, you are jumping and moving as quickly as possible. Let's go in 2, 1. So again, you're stepping out to the side for low intensity and then jumping nice and quick for that higher intensity. Breathing in and out through the nose where possible. If you're in that first half of your cycle, it's okay to kind of push the threshold. So get a little bit of discomfort in the breath where you have to breathe in and out through the mouth. But as best as you can, keep those nice long breaths in and out. Can you pick up the pace if you're in the first half for the next 10 seconds? And let's rest if you're in the first half. If you're in luteal, you can continue through the next 20 seconds with those lower impact jacks. Our next movement pattern is a walkout to a side plank. So we're going to start at the back of your mat. If you're in luteal, you can start to transition that way now. We'll move in 3, 2, 1. Let's reach it up, walk it out, move to the side, and then to the other side. And walk it back. Nice and quick, depending on your cycle phase. But make sure that you spend a little bit of time in that side plank to really activate the arms, shoulders, and back. Reach it up. After this, we're moving to our drop taps. So another option that has both high and low intensity. We've got about 10 more seconds here. And then we'll come back up to standing. So luteal phase, you continue for another 10 seconds or so. Otherwise, we're getting ready for our drop taps. So the low impact option, low intensity option, step out to alternate sides and tap the floor. Your high intensity option, you're jumping out and tapping with each hand. Let's begin. Drop tap. So if you're in the ovulatory phase, you are attempting to max out for that full 30-second interval. If you're in the follicular phase, you're just slightly below that max effort. So somewhere between 70 and 85% of your max heart rate. You got this. We're here for just over 10 more seconds. Can you pick up the pace? Move a little quicker. Keep that chest and head up. And rest if you're in the first half. You keep moving if you're in luteal. Our next movement pattern is plank to a launch. So we're going to start in the plank, come into the crouching position, and simply launch forward. To turn up the intensity, add a push-up. Here we go. Take the knees back to plank. That's your first option. Just pausing in that strong plank. If you're wanting to add intensity, drop it down to the push-up and come up. Back to launch, powerful legs and powerful arms. Here we go. If you find yourself kind of wriggling up in that push-up, you can always drop the knees for the push-up portion and then pop them up to launch back. We're here for just 5 more seconds. Keep it nice and fluid and rest. So you know the drill. If you're in luteal, you're still moving through that plank launch and then gradually working your way back up to standing. Our next movement pattern is a reverse lunge with a knee drive. Low impact, you're here with some power. High impact, you're getting that air. Here we go. So, follicular and ovulatory phases, you are pushing that challenge, pushing your threshold, getting close to that breathless zone. You can even take maybe 1 with the knee drive, 1 hop. Take whatever you need to make this challenging and sustainable. If you're in that max effort zone though, you want to be ready for that rest at the 30-second mark. 2 and 1. Shake it out. We're doing the same on the other side. So this is a single-sided exercise. We take 1 on the left, 1 on the right. Catch your breath. We'll get ready to go in just over 5 seconds here. Get into position. And let's begin. Hop it up. You got it. Make it quick. Keep the spine nice and tall through that entire range of motion. If you need to catch your breath, you can always alternate between high and low impact. We're here for 20 more seconds. Can you pick up the pace? Find that intensity threshold and hover there for a few reps. We've got 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Shake it out. You should be, if you're in the first half with me, you're approaching breathless. If you're in the second half, you're keeping it slow and smooth, keeping that pace under control. Next is hop switch. So we come into this nice deep spiral lunge. Low intensity. You're simply going to, let's begin, step forward and back. High intensity. After you catch your breath, you're going to hop switch, hop switch. As you do this, don't let the hips drop. Keep them nice and elevated the entire time. You got this. Hop switch, powerful legs. Breathe. Stay with me. If you need to, you can take a few of the low intensity reps here. And then turn it up for the last 5 seconds. And rest. Shake it out. Be mindful, especially in the second half, as you change body positions from down in the lunge up to standing. Just take it nice and slow as you switch. Our next movement pattern is an around the world lunge where we're stepping it forward to the side and then either in a curtsy or a reverse lunge. This is a single-sided exercise. Let's begin now. We step it forward to the side and then either cross behind or straight into your reverse lunge. Forward, side, and behind. So this one doesn't have the high-low impact option or high-low intensity. So it's a great way to catch your breath. Just keep the legs moving. You can let your arms move however they support your balance best. And you can just really refine that lunge movement pattern. We get all 3 planes of motion here. Last one, and rest. We're switching sides now. So single-sided, now we'll hit the other side. In just over 10 seconds here, shake it out. This is a great kind of midway point to catch your breath before we finish strong in the second half of this workout. Let's begin Now, so we step it forward, out to the side, and then behind, either curtsy or reverse lunge. Feel that rhythm, that flow where you're not really having to think too much about the foot position. Your body just sort of goes around in that half moon shape. Forward, to the side, and behind. Keep moving, keep it steady and fluid. If you have a heart rate monitor, you can be working to your specific zones. If you're using your breath in the luteal phase, you want to be breathing nice and easy. Rest where you're just below that threshold where it starts to become labored, or you can kind of hover right at that threshold. For your menstrual phase and in that bridge between cycles, you want to keep it even lower. Next movement pattern is a push-up to a plank tuck. So here, low intensity, we step it forward, back, push up. High intensity, hop forward, back, push up. Option is here too, if you need it to lower the knees. Just make sure you're keeping the spine straight and strong for the entire range of motion. Stay light on your toes as you hop forward and back. You can have the hands slightly wider than the shoulders if you need it. I'm going to lower my knees for the last few reps. Forward and back and rest. Shake it out. We're coming now to a little bit of a balance movement. So we're going to have the hands behind the head. We step back with one foot, cross to the opposite knee, and then come up to that balance and cross at the top. If you need to, you can pause in between to reset. Let's begin. Cross, come up, and cross. So we're twisting the torso here as we move the legs through that lunge motion to single leg balance. Really drive through that standing heel. Again, this is catch your balance, an opportunity to slow it down, get focused, and find that control before you pick up the pace. Take it down, twist, and power. Here we go. Twist and up. Last one, and shake it out. We'll switch sides next. So same exercise now on side 2. We are coming in on the last few minutes past the halfway point of this workout. Let's move in 3, 2, 1. Hands come behind, cross your body and lift. Get that cross nice and slow and lift. Notice if balance is more challenging on one side compared to the other. Notice as you practice during different phases, when does balance feel like it's a little bit easier? When can it be more challenging? A lot of times in the high hormone phase, in the luteal phase, we have that little bit of interference from hormones. We have more sympathetic drive, meaning more inner stress. So it can feel harder to balance and rest. Shake it out. Next movement is our kick through. So this one, your pace is going to determine the intensity. So you can be nice and slow, simply rotating. You can even rest that opposite foot down, or you're picking up the pace and hopping. Let's begin now. So we kick through. Bring your lifted hand toward the heart. Keep the shoulders and hips in the same elevation the whole time. You are rotating here, so we are letting that rotation happen, but we don't want to drop the hips. Keep them nice and even. Keep the back of the neck neutral, so you're not craning to look forward or looking down at your feet, kind of gazing right between the hands. Last 3, 2, and 1. Rest. We're coming into a forward lunge next in about 15 seconds. If you're in that 40-20 interval, if you're in continuous intervals, you can start to make the transition to standing next. We'll start with our arms overhead. You're going to step forward, touch the palms and then back up. Touch the palms and back up. This one, another one that is driven by pace. So there's not a high intensity or low intensity option. But if you're looking for more or less, you speed it up or slow it down. We're moving arms and legs together. So we're getting peripheral heart action, which just means your blood is having to travel to the extremities, to your limbs. And that improves circulation, supports cardiovascular conditioning. Last one, and rest. Next up is the burpee. Lots of options for this one. Your low impact option, you are walking back to plank, omitting the push-up, coming up and just reaching onto the toes. Your high impact option, you're adding it all. So hopping back and forward, adding the push-up. Let's begin. So walking burpee, forward, lift to the toes. Next option is to add the push-up for more intensity and lift up. Then we add the jump, forward, back, and up. So there's 3 opportunities for explosive power in the burpee. And you can do it either stepping, jumping, or just lifting. Just 5 more seconds. Get as many as you can. And rest. Shake it out. Next one is squat to a toe tap. A couple different intensity options for you. You're squatting, either tapping the toes or tapping the knee. You can move very quickly or more slow and fluid. Those are your options. Let's begin. So if you're in the first half with me, we're moving fast. We are coming down the home stretch of this workout. So where can you dig a little deeper? We got this. Use that power in the hip flexors to lift your leg or drive the knee. We've got just over 10 seconds to go. Stay in it. Find that strength, that conditioning. And rest. Shake it out. Next movement is a chair squat to the toes. So we come down, heart, belly, chest to the thighs, and we lift up onto the toes. You guessed it right. If you want more intensity, you're coming into more of that hinge jump. Let's begin. Now, heart, belly, chest to the thighs. You're either lifting to the toes or jumping up, getting some hang time. Keep your breathing fluid. So we've got that skier, squat, and then the lift. I'm going to take a few of the low intensity option here just to catch my breath. And then I'll come in strong for the last 10 seconds, which happens now. Here we go. What can you create in the last few seconds of this interval? And rest. Catch your breath. We have plank jacks next. So you're either stepping one foot out and the other foot out, or you're jumping the feet out and together. Let's begin in 3, 2, 1. So you're either tapping the toes out, in, or jumping, keeping the upper body completely still, trying not to bounce the hips too much. So we use quickness in the feet, so you're just moving them out and in. You can even take one low impact, out and in. We got this. Stay with me. We just have a few more intervals. If you're in the luteal phase or menstrual phase, your focus is just that continuous, steady movement and rest. It can be low intensity, but it's steady. You're finding the flow, finding the rhythm. Next movement pattern, we are coming into a reverse lunge with a hip circle. This one, you step it back, circle the hip nice and wide, and then exchange to the other side. Let's begin. Reverse lunge, big circle, stand up straight, and to the other side. So we just alternate sides here. You got it. Again, here, not really much in the way of scaling or progressing this movement pattern, just your pace. So you're starting to move a little bit more quickly. If you want more intensity, slowing it down, more control. If you're looking to bring that intensity level down. Last few seconds, stay with me. We have one more exercise to finish this workout strong. So if you're in the first half, you should be in your peak heart rate zone, pushing that vigorous intensity. We're coming into plank, shoulder taps, and then knee taps. So find that plank here, and let's begin. Tap the shoulders, tap the knee. If you want a little bit more intensity to finish out, you exchange that knee tap for a mountain climber. Nice and quick. You can maybe add a couple rounds just to get that pattern down. Or you're just tapping shoulder and knee, keeping the hips in perfect alignment. They're not twisting, not lifting, or lowering. We got this. Finish strong. And rest. Slowly and steady come up. If you are in that high intensity zone, still at your peak, I want you to come into some dynamic movement, like these side lunges. If you're in the luteal phase and you've been at that steady state the whole time, you can jump right into your cool down next. But if you're with me and your heart rate is still really high, I want you to be in this nice, slow, steady, dynamic movement. Maybe switch to reverse lunges until you feel your breath return to normal. So the rate at which you're breathing comes from that peak state down to its baseline. That can be an indicator of cardiovascular health. So just take note of how quickly you're able to relax the breath after a max effort output. Let's come up, standing rotation here. I'm just about there. You can hear it in my voice. So you want to be looking for that point where you can breathe nice and easy in and out through the nose, or you can carry on a conversation without having to pause for that breath. Let's enjoy a few slow squats here to bring it down even more. Again, if you're still with me in the luteal phase, you can skip to the cool down using the video description, the timestamps there whenever you're ready. And now I feel that point. It's almost like the body lets out a sigh when you hit your recovery and you're back to your baseline. That's when you know you are ready to cool it down. So we will head into our cooling movement next. Now that you've completed your workout, we will get into our cooling mode. We'll start with some dynamic movement, and then we'll get into some more static deep stretches for the entire body. We're starting with a squat and rotate in 2, 1. So we squat it down. Doesn't have to be your fullest, deepest squat, but enough to feel that stretch. And then you're rotating side to side. I like to keep the palms pressing together to really facilitate that rotation. You can keep your feet more parallel to work on that true squat stretch where you get a bit of mobility in the ankles, a stretch along the calf. And then we're coming to the top of the mat. Slowly take your hands to the ground. Cross your right leg behind the left, and then walk your hands over to the left, so toward your back foot. Then I want you to even take your left ear to your left shoulder. Keep the weight shifting forward into the ball mounds of your feet. Really press down through the inner edge of both feet to feel that stretch along the outer right leg, the right side waist. And we're going to come back through center. We're simply going to step that right foot back, and we'll come into a rocking lunge. So this is the dynamic stretching here where we are moving through the range of motion, kind of trying to elongate that range. with movement. And then we will pair this with static stretching. So we reach it forward and then back. Slowly come up as you're ready. We'll reach the arms overhead. Take your left hand to your left hip, right arm reaches up and over. I want you to take your right hand behind your head, press that right elbow open as you bend to the side. Try not to crunch into the left side waist, but lift up and out. So you're elongating both sides of the body at once here. We're here for about 10 more seconds. Maybe lean it a little bit more forward to feel that hip flexor. And release the hands. We're going to come into a runner's lunge. So we straighten that leg, that front leg, any amount. Try to keep your hips more or less over the back knee, so not coming too far behind. You can even bring your hands to the inside of that foot if that feels good. You can alternate between pointing and flexing that foot to stretch the different musculature in the back of the leg here. Try to keep your heart extending forward so we're not rounding in the upper back. And then we'll slowly come forward and we'll switch sides. So cross your left leg behind now and walk your hands to the right. So we're pressing evenly through the inner edges of both feet. We're taking maybe right ear to right shoulder here. Stretching along the left side waist. All the while working to kind of reestablish, recalibrate the breath. Slowing those exhales. Come back through center. We're going to step the left foot back now into our rocking lunge. So simply forward and back. Again, this is the dynamic stretch where we're using that movement while the body's warm to kind of expand the range of motion. And then we'll pair this with static stretching to get that deeper sensation. As you're ready, slowly rise up into that low lunge, arms overhead, right hand to the right hip, left arm up and over. Then bring your left hand behind your head and open that left elbow out nice and wide so you feel the entire left side expanding. And then try to inflate and expand a bit on the right as well so that you're not crunching into the right side waist. We're here for just one more breath. Then we'll come into our runner's lunge. So again, your hands can frame your front foot or come to the inside. And we're straightening that leg any amount. So it might not come all the way straight today, and that's okay. You want to stop wherever you start to feel that sensation. And then we hold and breathe so that we can create the signal to the body for the relaxation response. You can help that a little bit by flexing the quad. So the more that you engage the front of the thigh, the more the back relaxes. And then we'll slowly step up now, left foot to right, come into a nice deep squat. So a nice deep chair squat. And then we're going to wrap the arms around behind. You might have to bring your feet a little bit closer together. If you can, find opposite elbows or maybe opposite wrists. And then we're going to round the upper back. So really stretch between the shoulder blades. Feel the trapezius nice and long. You can let your head hang heavy so long as your heart rate has returned to normal. Then deeply into the knees and then slowly release the hands. We will roll up bone by bone all the way to standing. That is your total body cool down. Let's take a big breath in and a slow breath out. Sigh. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me, for letting lunae be a part of your movement journey. I am so glad you're here. It's an honor to move with you. So thank you again for being here and for letting your body be moved.